Welcome back to the Pathfinders podcast. I'm your host, Pete Schramm, founder and CEO of Latitude and author of Pathfinders, the book, Navigating Your Career Map with a Personal Board of Advisors. And believe it or not, that's what the Pathfinders podcast really focuses in on, bringing amazing guests onto the show and talking about those two things, your career map, 5 dimensions of the past, present, future, looking at your skills, your achievements, some of the education along the way, the fun stuff, and also some of the, accomplishments, right? What are the cool things that you want to brag about, but also looking forward. The second part of the podcast, we talk with our amazing guests around who guided them. We call this a personal board of advisors, those multiple mentors. We might refer to it as a PBA. So we'll post this on LinkedIn and the other podcasting platforms. So as you're listening along, please comment and tag some great things. We're like, man, that was a great one. Our guest today, his favorite quote is never negotiate with self. Never negotiate with self. Dave Pygon serves as the president and founder of Pygon ONE Consulting, a specialized consulting firm based out of Chicago. Pygon ONE superpower lies in mastering and tackling the complex challenges of soft skills, particularly leadership development. Dave has a great approach to it. You're going to love his energy today. Problem solving, driving results, efficiency, and effectiveness, along with improved communication. More than 2 decades of leadership experience, Dave has effectively guided numerous businesses and people to success. It's important that we're learning from individuals that have been there, done that, and rocked it along the way. The consulting practice offers a wide range of custom development and training services tailored to meet specific needs of organizations and their people. You'll hear a lot around that theme of people first throughout today's session. A couple of fun facts about Dave before we go live is he nearly turned down an opportunity to get published in Forbes with this guy, Warren Buffett, right after. I think that, Dave, that was right after you published your book. He's the creator and co-host of Win the 16. That's his book. That's his podcast. Go check it out. Executive Council CEO Magazine, and a fellow hooper, but he was much better, played at the Division I level. So Dave, welcome up to the stage. NIU Huskies, right?
Yeah, you got it, Pete, man. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Of course. Did you watch any NBA yet? Things are getting exciting, getting started.
It is funny. I did, and I was actually looking forward to it when we settled down last night about 7:40. But the game was already over. The Celtics had already crushed the Knicks, and they were up by almost 30 already in the third quarter. So my night in basketball started and ended very quickly because I couldn't stay up for the Laker game. I fell asleep at 9:15. Sleep is good for you, everybody. It's good for you. Get it.
There's a couple of great things, whether you're listening or watching. Don't have enough awesome things to say about Dave, but he's always ready to rock and roll. His energy is contagious, infectious, and motivating. And Dave, talk to us. Let's kick things off. What'd you want to be whenever you were growing up?
You can answer this yourself, my friend. You know that. I wanted to play in the NBA, but realism hit me pretty early on in my lifetime, knowing that was not going to happen. So the next best thing was run my own NBA team, right, bud? Some sort. And then realism hit there, and I liked the television show at that time, and I'm dating myself, but I'm 54 years old. And LA Law hit that show. I loved the way the men dressed in their suits. I loved their articulation in the courtroom and the communication and the negotiation and the selling they did. And my mother, when I told her, said, "Mom, I finally got my major, pre-law." She goes, "I've read your writings, not that good. And you don't love to read subjects you don't love for long periods of time. So get a new major." I ended up going to business, and the next best thing was, you know what? I'm going to get a life of sales and marketing. And that's what I did, my friend. I jumped into sales and marketing internships in college, and then started with ADP in a sales role. And that propelled my career to other things.
So took you to ADP, but let's go back to those college days real quick.
Sure.
There's a lot of things that we learned, a bunch of business classes that you probably took, maybe a cool couple of electives along the way, and you managed all that, balanced all that while it looks like you had a job, right, while you were there on campus at NIU, Northern Illinois University, and you were also a Division I athlete. So talk to us about the tools that stayed in your toolbox upon graduation and leaving campus.
So many avenues to go on this, but I'm going to whittle it down for it and save some time.
Mm-hmm.
One, psychology class, Psych 103. Loved it. It taught us about people, behaviors, how we work, somewhat how we think, our own self-awareness. Absolutely love that class. And lo and behold, umpteen years later, that's a big part of my not only leadership style, but my coaching with people is you got to know yourself first. As frustrated you are with maybe some of your employees, totally get
Yep.
it. It all starts with you. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to know what triggers you. You got to know what you're good at. You got to know what you're not good at. And that's part of the brain. That's a psychological piece, evaluating yourself and then evaluating others. So that stuck out with me. And I'm a work in progress with that, Pete. I teach it all the time, but I'm trying to get better at it every day because to be successful, you can have all the technology, you can have all the technical skills, knowing your widget, but it's that human component that I really believe is essential. We call it soft skills, but that's outdated. The Army, I believe, came up with that over 50 years ago. They're not soft skills, they're essential skills. So I would say that would be one. And then also, I would say my internships in college at Excel Data Comp, selling for them, as well as a sales position at Northern Illinois in the athletic department, an internship there. Those things to really get my feet wet of what it is to communicate in a professional environment world. Really enjoyed that. So that kicked off my career, I would say.
So you kicked it off there and then took your talents to ADP, right? So
Yes, yes.
business background, you do a little bit of selling there. Did you
Yeah.
stay in the Chicago area? Did you move around? What was that like?
No, born, bred, raised, Chicago, Southside Catholic, still am.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get very fortunate. Northern Illinois is a big university. It's now in the MAC conference. It got out of it. Now it's back. And huge state university, a lot of opportunities. ADP was one of the companies on campus in February when I graduated that May, and was fortunate enough to meet Chris Parks and Tony and all the other leaders there. They offered me a position early on in that semester, took it, and
Yeah.
great start. And I can name you all the people that helped me on my journey to become a pretty good salesman. Chris, Kevin, Tony, Dave, Michelle, people that I will tell you, I think they're the best salespeople I've ever met.
It helps to learn from the best, and cool, fun story there. One of the first people that I worked with in my days at Lockheed Martin just moved to Pittsburgh, 9 minutes walking away from me, and we caught up to grab some wings and a drink recently. I'm like, whoa, look at this! More than a decade later, all coming together. So there's something to be said about keeping in touch with those individuals,
Yes.
and you learn from them. So, David, you're no longer at ADP. As you started thinking, hey, maybe I want to be here, maybe I want to go to the next place. Who helped guide you in making that decision? Leaving that first job professionally can be a little bit tricky. You probably had a little bit of fire in your belly internally, right? But was it some of those individuals, maybe other members of your personal board of advisors that said, hey, Dave, maybe we should look elsewhere? Maybe not yet to the MBA, but other places.
Yeah. So the career path at ADP was, for most people at that time, that was around 1993, 94. People would stay and move to Parsippany for a short period of time and then go to a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some training with ADP at the end of my term there. So it's that point of, okay, do you want to do that? The other one is a lot of them would go into software, hardware sales with another company.
Mm-hmm.
That was a heavily recruited market from ADP based on the skills that we learned of a lot of cold calling, a lot of foot canvassing, knocking on doors, got a big time work ethic, Pete, right up your alley. The third avenue was many would go into the healthcare space, whether it was surgical or pharmaceutical. In dealing with some of a couple of my mentors who did leave, one of them was in medical, a couple went on the software hardware. So what it inspired me to do was investigate. And
Yeah.
then I always had interest in healthcare. My brother's a doctor. My uncle was a doctor. My aunt's a nurse. I gravitated towards that. And I interviewed. I ended up getting a very nice opportunity with Alcon Laboratories, who was and continues to be the world leader, everything to do with ophthalmology, surgical, pharma, vision care, etc.
And what'd you do there? What was the role over at Alcon?
Sure, I was there over 20 years. First 5 years selling their products, and then went down. We started a new division. They were looking for new leaders. Applied, got it, and from there on in, never turned back. Over 2 decades of leadership. From there, they were bought by Novartis, huge pharmaceutical company, and Novartis took us over for about 6 years. So went over to Novartis with them and continued to lead teams. In that meantime, there was a short period of time I did consulting for almost 3 years. We called it account management, but it was really consulting. There was 9 of us that would travel the country and consult with high influential healthcare organizations. Had a lot of fun doing that. Spent a lot of time on essential skills, the soft skills of the world of working with C-suite leaders and organizations on communication, how to deal with the different generations, problem solve, effective communication, and enjoy the heck out of it.
So, couple of follow-on questions to that. I'm just going to go through 1, 2, 3. You were in sales a couple of different times. Helpful guidance, tips, nuggets that you can share to those kind of early career, mid-career sales folks out there.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, what you do is hard and it's important. You're bringing value. If you don't believe that, you need to get a new profession, because selling in the world we live in now, I think it's much more complex and harder than it was when I was actually doing it. I really believe that. Our competitors are bigger, better, stronger. There's more of them. It's fierce. We're a global world more than now than ever.
Yeah.
We're coming all over the place. So you need to believe in what you're selling. Like, you have to believe it. You have to know it. I will tell you, Pete, I believe early on in my career, I hired that dynamic person most of the time, highly charismatic, usually, maybe an ex-athlete, maybe not, highly competitive. And I viewed organization, I view accountability, but I got to tell you now, I don't know if I would hire anybody who couldn't take the ball from A to Z. I think the ability to start something and finish something and to follow up and have that persistence and perseverance to do that is imperative for people out there today, is being able to take whatever you're working on and complete it. And that's a skill. I know I read an article, oh gosh, it's probably about a year and a half now, from Harvard Business Review. And it was the first time when they were polling HR directors, that it was the first time they valued, I think it was only by a percentage or 2 points, but they valued people's ability to start something and finish it as their number one attribute in hiring over past success.
Wow.
I thought that was interesting. I want them both. I'm selfish as a leader and hiring people, but that really struck the chord with me. And then I started reflecting back on the consulting I do and where some of the leaders that I work with, whether it's individually or in group settings, miss. It's not always intentional, Pete, but they have so many things on their plate that sometimes things slip a little bit and they miss something here, something here. It's not intentional. I wouldn't even say it's disorganization necessarily, but I would say it's a watch out for everybody listening. Is as you're taking more and more on, sometimes you need to call timeout. Sometimes you need to say no. And sometimes you do have to take it on, but you really got to take a step back and say, whoa, wait a minute. By taking this on, Pete, what potentially could fall? And is it okay if I let it fall? Because sometimes there's things where now the deck has been changed whether you're a salesperson or leader, that was important a week ago. It's not anymore. Not as important. I'm okay with putting that to the side. The problem is people don't always do that, and they just let it fall. And that's when we have a problem moment.
Yeah, it might be more than a problem. We might have already not just a risk. Hey, we might get hit by this thing, or this, could go wrong. We've already smacked into it. We've already fallen down.
Can I add? Can I
Yeah.
add in on that, Pete? Especially too as a leader.
Yeah.
Didn't say this was fair, but once you become a leader, your bar of excellence is just been raised, because the reason you let that one plate slip, whatever you want to call it, not get done, I get it. I understand it. But if you don't articulate to the people it affects, you're slowly cutting your knees out from underneath yourself.
Yep.
Because the other people don't know that you had to call timeout on that. And if you don't articulate that to them and you rest on that, I'm just busy, to me, that's a losing recipe. That's a loser recipe. That's a recipe for problems with your team and your people. They're slowly going to lose trust, respect, etc. when you do that. Now, if you get ahead of it and say, hey, things have come up, you're really important, so is this project, but I got to push it off a couple days a week. I just want to be respectful to you to let you know why. They're going to love you for it, because you'll be one of the few leaders out there that are probably doing it.
Amen. You nailed it. One of the things that we instituted over the summer at Latitude, teams over a dozen people, was I'd do just a quick selfie video, less than 3 minutes. First one was 5 minutes, but after that, they're less than 3 minutes.
Okay.
Just, hey, here's the game plan, the good, the bad, the ugly of what's happening. So we're all on the same page. That vulnerability, that trust, respect, and transparency. You're not going to share everything that's going on, but just to say, hey, give that little bit of inspiration, motivation, and to see it and feel it, not just reading it, is absolutely critical as you're going through. So a couple of folks have heard about that, and they started instituting it with their teams up to over 1,000 people. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool, right? We're not to 1,000 people yet. We'll get there one day, but totally with you, Dave.
Pete, how did that make you feel, having such a scope of authority without having the true ultimate influence, but you did influence? How was that for you?
It was great. I mean, it's helpful to get it out there and say, hey, we're all on the same page. We're all in this together. And truly, we're rowing this boat. Without the great team around me, I'm not able to get everything done. And there's times whenever stuff, kind of drops off a little bit, just like you said. So over the last couple of weeks, even, since we got back from my brother's wedding in Italy, there's been some timeout moments. There's been some long nights, but there's also been some timeouts, and exactly what you said. And we talk about this in the book too, of, what happens if I do this now? What happens if I don't do this now? What happens if I don't do this ever? And so to drink some of our own Kool-Aid along the way. And that's where the accountability partner on the personal board of advisors comes in. Right, from a growth trajectory. The people on our board aren't necessarily going to help us with getting our job done day to day, but they're going to help us on that overall higher level macro view of our path as it continues to grow and flourish.
And what I loved about your book and your career mapping is what it does for people too is it doesn't lock them in forever. And that's what people got to understand is what your mapping does, though, is absolutely puts them on the path of getting to where they want to go. And it's like, I think of your career mapping as if back in the old day when we used to use maps before we had the phones and all that good stuff, is sometimes you're on that map and you're like, yeah, I'm going to Florida. And then you realize, we want to jet off this runway and go here, and we want to go there. Your past, present, and future career mapping allows you to do that. But what I love about it is it gets you started, Pete.
Yep.
It gets you going like, okay, this is where I want to go. And maybe you are going to go A from Z on that path that you created through your career mapping, but maybe you don't. It has that flexibility, and it gets people organized, Pete, because you get people to think and organizations to move to places that are just aspirations.
It's taking action, and it's more than just talking about it. You're moving things forward. Dave, let's talk a little bit about that acquisition opportunity, that merger piece, how the culture changed, and maybe you talk a little bit about how that experience was for you, And then talk about some of the work you can do of what really good looks like whenever you're integrating cultures like that. Touch on some of the work you guys are doing at Pygon ONE Consulting for that piece. But around the merger acquisition, Alcon to Novartis, and some of what the be cognizant of and what really good is.
Yes, I would tell anyone who's going through it. We all have choices. We all have agency. Everyone listening, we all do, even though we don't feel like it at times. We feel like we don't have control, and we don't, but we really do. And we control our mindsets. Do we want to have a positive mindset? Do we want to have a neutral mindset? Do we want to have a negative mindset? Right? Those are all choices. And anytime there's a buyout, I totally understand everyone listening. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking a little bit. I just haven't found, at least in the world I live in, living in that world of scared, afraid, thinking all the worst that could happen, it just hasn't, in my world, ever helped me. Please reach out at dpygon at pygon1.com if you have a trick that I'm missing. I just don't find it helps. So what I would encourage everyone to do, what I found is when I went into it is, I went in with the open mind. I went into it is, there's going to be things that we're going to have to change. There's no question. The company who bought us has every right to make modifications. They spent that money. It's theirs. I'm going to be open-minded, and I'm going to go into it. Good's going to happen. And the things that maybe we don't necessarily love, it's part of doing business, and we have to accept it. But to be scared, I just don't know if it helps. To go negative, I don't see it helps. So I'd say be open and be free. And when you do have to change and modify your behaviors or how you're doing things, accept it. Don't fight it, because you have to do it anyways. And the other thing I would say is, a lot of times it's so funny, Pete, I'd love your insight on this, is when we leave an organization, the things when we were there that were challenging us, that we didn't necessarily love, we go to the new place and we look at the old place as the Mecca, that everything was great there. And I always remind people, especially in a lot of my consulting, people that are in transitions, all this. And I said, you know what's so funny? When you were at your old place or where you were doing business, my guess is you reflected at times some of the things you weren't good at. Now that you're gone, all you remember is, I wish we had this, I wish we had that with the new company. And I just like to say is, that's probably not fair, if we're being honest. You go to a new place, you're right, you're going to miss some things. But I bet you there are some things, especially if you go to a real big company, you're probably getting benefits and things you never would have gotten for the smaller company. Now, you might lose some autonomy and independence, of course. And conversely, if you go to a smaller company where you now have more autonomy and more independence, you're probably losing some of those benefits. Your copay for insurance is probably a little bit more expensive now. So it's all up to you to decide what you want to take from that experience. So I took it in positive in that way. And I just found it makes me better, helps me. And ultimately, I believe most people listening in their careers want this. They want to be successful and they want to be happy.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I've been tended to be told I oversimplify things, but I always tell people, if we can have our teams successful and on that track, and in an environment where they can be happy more often than not, you're in a really good spot.
Well said. I think we can also learn from those ups and downs and those opportunities along the way. And to build on your piece of big company, small company, you have flexibility and stability. And you have to balance, hey, what do I want at these different stages of my professional journey? And one of the great things can be that guiding system and the support system of your personal board of advisors. And that's where I'd like to go with this now, Dave, is talking about some of those guides that you had along the way. So as we start to think about who those handful of individuals are, you read the book, you know some of the different pieces of them. But my question to you is, where did you find those people? One, and then two is, what were some of the helpful questions that you asked along the way in those relationships? Maybe it's not just the questions, but the things you discussed with them along the way.
I think potentially maybe the most interesting and probably the largest, where my personal advisors played a major role and were so helpful for me, not only validating what I was thinking, but also challenging what I was thinking. And that would be when I finally said, stop making excuses, be bold, start your own company, write your book, start your own podcast. And that would be one. My brother, who's an anesthesiologist, was the chief medical officer of the hospital here in Chicago. My consultant and business coach, one of my good friends, who's a leader on the East Coast. Those three right off the top of my head, when I was contemplating that, were critical. And let me tell you where it started this conversation. Okay, all right. Are you out of your mind? That's what one of them said.
Yep.
Right. That's real, right? That's authenticity. That's who you want on your advisory board. People are going to tell you what they're first thinking. And I said, I know, I feel that same way. Here's what I'm thinking. The questions. Luckily, two of the three are critical thinkers for all those people who follow DISC out there and personality assessments. So they're wonderful at asking questions. And I find them to be so helpful because they take me places I would never go or I wouldn't think of. So that's why when we talk about diversity in our life, having people with different strengths, we're all amazing, but we're all a little different, our personalities and our behaviors. So when we can sprinkle in multiple different types of mindsets in our life, we get to better places. And that's what the personal advisory board does for me. I've got those people. I can think of another person who's an advisory board, but he's that energy guy in my life. I'm a little sad, whatever it might be that day. He's the energy guy.
Yeah.
That person. He's that high Barack Obama type, Jimmy Fallon type. Always happy, positive, can turn a cloudy day into a sunny day. That's another person who's part of your advisory board. I just said this today, Pete. I'm so glad, and I had no idea you were asking. I just asked a client today, you don't have to answer me now, but I need you to put together, I use different terms. I need you to put together all the resources in your life that are going to help you become a better leader. And who are going to be your accountability buddies? They're in. You don't have to pay for them necessarily. You don't have to hire a coach, but you have many smart people in your life. If you really think about it, at work, at home, that could all play different roles for you. And that's really what you're doing in your career mapping and in your book at Pathfinders and having these personal advisors. That's really what I was asking her to do.
It's huge. And once you share that with people, they kind of say, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They might have already been starting to do some of those things along the way, Dave. And that's where the idea of Latitude came from, right? To have a little bit of a software that's guiding you, nudging you, reminding you, giving you a place to track some of those conversations, track your career map in a software. Man, Dave told me to go do this thing. Son of a gun. Where do I do this? How do I do this? When do I do this? Boom. That's where it makes your life a little bit easier inside of an organization. We don't have to keep knocking our head against the walls. And this isn't a sales pitch for Latitude, but it is an awareness pitch for Latitude to all those leaders out there saying, hey, what are you doing to invest in your people? If you can get them going and rocking and rolling with the things Dave's talking about alone, fantastic. If you want to take it to the next level, add some rigor, process, accountability, and metrics. Isn't it nice if we can show some of that progress? Hey, CEO, we're spending money on something, but here's the return on our investment. Yep. Then you can come back in again, Dave, and say, hey, let's take our leadership development and those trainings to the next level. These are the table stakes. Now let's build off of those things.
And I want to interject on that, Pete. I am not a stockholder at Latitude. My friend happens to be just the man running the company, Pete. And let me just tell you what we're talking about here is you don't have to buy Latitude. Don't. But you can't argue the benefit of it. If you don't want to, get involved with it, it's your company. It's your organization. You have total autonomy on that. You can do what you want. That's not what Pete and I are saying. Well, what we are saying, though, is tell me how it doesn't make sense. Like, how does that not bring value to your team? Now, if timing's not right, fine, got it.
Yeah.
Money, fine, we can talk about that. But help me understand, because maybe we're missing something. And Pete and I got really connected because not just we're basketball maniacs, is because we really do similar things but differently in helping people on what we believe is essential.
Yep.
He believes it's essential people have a career map. And when you listen to him and he asks you questions, it's kind of hard to argue with him. On my end, like we spend our whole time helping people, not with the widgets, but how do we become more effective leading, managing, selling, manufacturing those widgets with the essential skills of life? How do we become better? Like the real question is, help us understand how that doesn't help. And it's a tough one to answer, Pete.
Dave, talk a little bit more about kind of what you're doing with the consulting firm right now and
Sure.
what the future pieces of your career map look like. We've talked about the speaking piece, build on that. Talked about the book. Is there another something coming in the future? Where can we get the book? What are some of the things you want to achieve with these next phases of your own career map? And then we'll get into some of the wrap-up questions.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. First of all, the book, Win the 16 Principles and Strategies to Optimize Your Day, can be found on Amazon, paperback, hard copy, audio book, whatever you'd like. It's humbling when people read it or listen to it. I mean, really, it's humbling. With regards to what we do, we get to do the fun stuff. A lot of people, what we do for a living here at Pygon ONE is we help people with things that are really hard for a lot of people. And the people who don't think it's hard, generally speaking, it's usually because they're not great at it and they're not even thinking about it. Leadership is hard. My Chicago White Sox here, they continue to be really, really bad. And yeah, the players are part of it, but it's leadership. 40 years of running a business like this, and I'm not bad mouthing them, but it's a leadership issue. Most people don't spend time on it. You take one course, great. Read one book, wonderful, love it. I applaud you. But leadership's a skill, and it needs to be practiced. It needs to be harnessed, and it's different, and it evolves. And
like a muscle, we got to keep going to the gym. We got to keep working those muscles. I don't just go to the gym once. I don't just read one book. I don't just go to one leadership class and I'm done. I continue to use this.
And most people get promoted on the Peter principle. They're really good at what they do, and then they get to the next job. And then they do well enough there, they get, again, the Peter principle, and they don't get developed. I ask people all the time, okay, help me out. How are you getting developed, coached, led, etc.? And usually there's a pause. That's a problem. Leadership is so important. I put leadership right in the same category as a parent. Those are important. Those set the standards and tables. So we help organizations and individuals, whether it's in group settings, 2 people, 8, 20, 50, or one-on-one, to be the best part of the leader. And we do it with tons of different tools. And we give people processes and methods so they can walk away and get steps. Not to be a robot and follow them, but just to give them a path. Give them reminders. And we help them how to be a great problem solver, how to be more efficient and effective, how to be a good communicator, how to know how we communicate, and also know how others communicate. And again, I'm a big personality behaviors guy. The Barack Obama, Jimmy Fallon, they're called the eyes of the world. They're influencers, love communicating. Those kind of people, it's very common if you do something, they're going to send you a thank you email or no. Our drivers of the world, the Mark Cuban type, they might not necessarily, and it's not that they're not thankful and appreciative, they're just on to the next thing already.
Yep.
And when you know that kind of stuff, you don't play favorites. You just know they're different. They're both amazing and they're both different. Those are leadership things. When you know those and have those in your tool belt, wow, you're powerful, Pete. And man, it's so wonderful and easy to do that. So that's what Pygon ONE does. You then ask, where are we going in the future?
Yeah.
And I'm getting close to that point of, do I get somebody on the East and West? Do I take it to become even bigger than we are today? And not that we're some big organization, but that's my career mapping. And my mapping is, at this point, I don't know yet. We're going to go see how 2025 is. And then at the end of the year, I'm going to reevaluate with my business coach and consultant and my other advisors, my personal advisors, and we'll see if we're ready to do that.
So
sorry, Peter, one other thing.
Yeah.
Not only are we ready to do it, that's critical. Do I want to do it?
it's always a balance of could I, should I, will I, am I,
Yeah.
and weaving that together. And it comes down to a timing piece. Dave, I'm going to go ahead and give a quick recap here in a second, but is there one closing tidbit or nugget that you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad you asked this question. This one's easy. Everybody, I can promise you one thing. One thing. Wherever you're at in your life, professionally and personally, if things are rolling for you right now, awesome. Enjoy it. If they're not, you're going to get out of that storm. We just don't know when. The faster all of us can learn how to handle hard better, the more successful we will be and the happier we will be, because storms are always going to come. They just are. And if you're that person where it sits with you when something bad at work happens at 9 a.m. till 4 o'clock, I totally understand. You have my empathy. I mean it. But if you could cut that down to maybe even be less triggered or move beyond it by 1 o'clock, you just
Yeah.
add 2 hours to your day. You'll
Yeah.
probably be happier, and I guarantee you have a better chance to be more successful. So that would be my tip. Handle hard better, everybody. I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm cognizant of it. If you are, you just might have a better opportunity to handle some of those tough days because they're always coming.
We in college we had a coach that would say, "Hey, you can be frustrated until midnight." And hey, I've won games at the buzzer, and I've lost games at the buzzer. And it was I was a freshman, and I missed a free throw that prevented us from winning the game, and we actually lost by one because of me. And I'll never forget how much I beat myself up.
Oh, yeah.
But it's hey, and midnight comes, the stroke of 12, and so in the workplace, maybe you have kind of the 12 noon, right? Or maybe there's the halfway point in the day. So it's a great, and sometimes, we might have a full bad day. And there's time and space to just say, hey, I'm not all there. And I think it's a great point. That athletic mindset teaches you so much about life and teamwork and just interacting and doing things, right? So great reminder there, Dave. I'm going to go ahead and do a recap here, and then we'll close up. So thanks very much, Dave, for joining us from Chicago. The Dave Pygon, the hoops guy from the Midwest, with dreams of the NBA as a player, then an owner. Likes law, but his mom recalibrated him to business. That took him to ADP. Some of the tools that stayed in his toolbox from his days at NIU were from a psychology class: knowing thyself first, soft skills as the essential skills. He developed some on-the-job training in internships and got his feet wet in communications and the professional setting. Some of the great mentors that helped guide him were some of the first salespeople: Chris, Kevin, Tony, Dave, Michelle. The career Mac tracks the training. And so at ADP, there was some different options for him to go into. So he's thinking, hey, where can I go from here? What are my future steps? I can go into software skills, sales from ADP, hardware sales, healthcare sales. He ended up going to Alcon Labs. Big opportunity. He was selling to leadership individuals all across the country. That group was bought by Novartis. He told us that sales jobs are hard and they're important. You need to believe in your product and your service. One of the biggest skills that we can have as individuals today is the ability to take the ball from A to Z. This is critical. Reminder to take time outs at different times and ask, what can, could, should I be doing right now? Get your career map. It can change over time. That's all right. The important thing is to get started. Around the M&A mindsets, scare off scarcity mindset. Be open to that change. Give a chance for good. People want to be successful and they want to be happy. Your PBA members challenged you. They validated you. And there were people like your coach, your brother, your friend from the East Coast. Great individuals and some of the pieces of it. Awesome guidance. You want to have people on your PBA that tell you what you need to hear, not just you want to hear. What you want to hear. Great more board members know where you want to go and your why and where you want to wind up. And they ask great questions. So your tidbit around diversifying your PBA with those various mindsets are fantastic. Everybody, reminder to call Dave at Pygon ONE to take your leadership to the next level, giving people a path. So Dave, let's handle hard better. Let's find the happiness, win the 16, and win together.
Love it. Let's do it.